Like the kind of the doghouse.
Okay, this past weekend, Canelo Alvarez got the victory over John Ryder via unanimous decision in a 12-round super middleweight clash, and it was pretty standard. You didn't really expect much more, I would say, from John Ryder. I think he did excellent, showed a lot of heart in there. For a moment, I was very, very sure he was going to get knocked out, especially in the fifth when Canelo put him down. But, credit, he did a lot of good stuff in there and hung with, one of the greats. And I think it was an interesting performance from Canelo. And I want to ask a question here today. And I feel, before I ask, I want to say Canelo Alvarez is one of my favorite fighters in the world. I have a list. I would say top of it is Errol Spence. Then I would say maybe a Boots Ennis. Then probably Shakur Stevenson. And after that, I would say Canelo Alvarez is is up there. But is Canelo Alvarez slowing down? Because when you look at Canelo, and people kind of, I think, sometimes forget how long he's been fighting. Canelo Alvarez has had, it says he is, on BoxRec, I think it says, with 59 wins and 2 losses. However, I'm pretty sure I saw somewhere else that he's had like 63 pro bouts. Maybe one hasn't been counted. But 2005 was when he made his debut, his pro debut. You got to consider he was very, very young. I think he was about, 16, 17, or maybe even younger. He was doing it for a long, long time. I think he might have been 15, actually. I remember saying. He's been doing this for such a long time, Canelo. And you got to consider he's not particularly old. He's only 32. But, miles on the clock is a real thing. Some guys, they start young and they burn out by the time they should get to their prime. Mike Tyson's a good example of it, even though his was a bit more mental problems. But, when guys start off young, they tend to burn out quicker than guys who traditionally will start off a little later. Like, Floyd was fighting for me a long time, but he only really fought the real competition by the time he was 30. So I think, and that's sort of one reason why I believe his era lasted until he was pretty much 40 years old, because he could afford to. He hadn't been in those sort of wars at a young age and hadn't really been fighting the elite level at a young age. He was fighting lots of Toro Gatti, obviously, and other guys, but really managing a career is a real thing. And I think Canelo has been managed relatively well. I can't really think of a fight I feel he took which I don't think he should have. Even the Floyd fight, it was a great learning experience for him, and I don't think it'd be smart to deny your young fighter the opportunity to go against the pound for pound best, especially when said pound for pound best isn't exactly a destructive puncher. He's a guy who will make you look silly in there. So, and that fight did more good than bad for Canelo. So I don't really look at that as a bad thing. Dimitri Bivol, similar sort of thing. He didn't really learn, I would say, yet. We have to see if he has learned from it. But the fact that, he went up against a guy who's a young, light heavyweight when Canelo started off at a very low weight in his career, that shows, it isn't as if he fought a guy who's over the hill and lost. He went up against a guy who I thought was a hard fight in the first place. And to be honest, if he comes and wins this rematch against Bivol, Canelo, it would make for a great story, defying all the odds and what have you. But I do wonder if he's slowing down, though, Canelo, because in this fight, I expected him to take out John Ryder. I think our prediction was a 4-round, knocking him out in 4 rounds. And he didn't get close to that. He got him down in the 5th. And yes, John Ryder was very tough. However, nowhere near the level of Canelo. And Canelo is somebody who naturally breaks you up with different types of shots. The left hook for the body was very nice. I understand, Ryder's a southpaw and it's harder to land that sort of left hook up top. But he was able to land a few shots. The uppercut, he landed a beautiful 1-2 that put Ryder down. And from a point, you felt like it was going to be a standard victory. But he wasn't really able to walk him down and beat him down the way I figured. And also, the small ring, which I thought was quite interesting, it helped Canelo, but didn't really help him the way I figured it would. I thought it'd make it a lot easier for him to cut off the ring, but he really wasn't able to get him out of there. he hurt him a few times, but there's never a point really where Ryder's legs completely went or really wobbly him. Again, I'm not saying Canelo's washed by any means, but I do think he's starting to lose a little bit of pep in his step because, personally, I look at Rocky Fielding. I look at, even though he never stopped Callum Smith, it was a brilliant performance. There's a few fighters where I look at and I think, yes, you never got him out of there, but you showed a certain level. Everybody expected him to get Ryder out of there very quickly, and he didn't. And he's faded as well towards the end of the fight, which isn't nothing new with Canelo. He did this against remember Danny Jacobs. He faded a little bit in that fight, same with the Golovkin fight. He does this because of the way he's built. I think naturally he is built not to consistently keep a pace on you for 12 rounds. You just see some guys that can keep a pace and they can set a pace and keep it. Errol Spence is built in a way where his body allows him to keep that pace going. You look at someone, Terence Crawford, similarly, even though he doesn't really keep a pace on guys, he's not overly muscular that he will gas. And similar with Sean Porter back in the day, he would someone who goes to one, keeps a pace on you. Some guys are just built for it. And I look at Canelo. He's very stocky, and I don't think it helps him. But I look at him now. Interesting point in his career. I think the Benavidez fight is the obvious one, but I don't think he's going to take it. He's going to take the Bivol fight. And, when I look at his past fights against Danny Jacobs, I thought he looked amazing. If you go for his few fights here, so before Ryder, he beat Golovkin, but then he obviously lost to Dimitri Bivol. Fought Caleb Plant, which he was getting outboxed, but was able to turn it around. Similar thing with Saunders. Yildirim, which is how pretty much I think everybody expected him to go against Ryder, dispatched with ease. Well, the win against Callum Smith, then knocked out Sergey Kovalev, and then you go back to the Jacobs and the field, and then back to the two Golovkin fights. So he's kind of kept at a certain level and has slowly gone up. I think from the Golovkin 2 fight, he's improved massively. But now he's at a point, how much better can he really get? And I do wonder now with Canelo, I thought he'd play with Benavidez, I really did. Now that fight is very, very interesting. If Canelo fades like he does against Ryder and how he naturally does against Benavidez, who does come on strong, he's another one who keeps a good pace on you. I just wonder how he will do. I think he's got a good chin, Canelo. We've seen this against Golovkin, but I just wonder again, how does he handle somebody who's going to come at him like that, and somebody who's tough in Benavidez, and Caleb Plant is a very good fighter for so many rounds, but then he fades. Similar to Canelo in a way, but not nowhere near the same level. But Benavidez, was getting beat for a lot of that fight, but then eventually was able to turn it around. And I feel with Canelo, I thought Canelo would be able to maybe pick him apart and make him look silly, Benavidez, but now it just makes me wonder whether he has the is a style, which is Canelo's style is pretty much he doesn't hit you with little soft shots, he hits you with power shots, power punches, and he does this constantly. He looks and he picks his shots carefully. Will that work against Benavidez? This is the problem that I think he had against Golovkin, where I felt as if the first fight per se, not really the second or the third. In the first fight, I felt he was waiting too long for the right shots, and he was kind of banking that his overhand right would knock Golovkin out, because he was knocking out the likes of Kirkland and Amir Khan, who were lightweight guys, which naturally he would knock him out. He's a bigger guy than us. But yeah, I do think with Canelo, I don't think he's really I think he's slowly coming out of his prime. I don't think he's like completely over the hill or washed. I think there's still something for him to give, but I do wonder if he continues long enough. And Canelo, I don't think is going to retire anytime soon, or I wouldn't think so. There's been no real hints at it. I just wonder whether he will. There'll be a point where somebody is able to put him down or hurt him. It says a lot. 63 pro fights or 61ish, whatever it is, never been put down. And I wonder if Benavidez can do it, especially being Mexican. There's a bit of emotion in there. A lot of people want him to fight, but Canelo kind of has a thing, doesn't want to fight a Mexican. I just wonder how that works. And I do think with Canelo, again, it's not as if he performed badly in the fight, but you would have expected him, his home crowd. They had a big entrance, like a Rocky movie coming in. You would have expected him to finish him, and he never really got the right shots, and he was trying, but it just felt as if, he was tiring. Same thing happened in the Bivol fight. Naturally when you're built like Canelo, you are going to tire, but I just think with Canelo, he seems to have lost something there, that step. Personally as well, his head movement doesn't really seem to be the same as it really used to be. He used to be very slick defensively. You couldn't touch him. Now he's a little bit, I don't know, he's getting hit with uppercuts down the middle. I know, again, Ryder's a southpaw, and he's landed a lot of uppercuts, Ryder, which I was surprised about with Canelo. Obviously, he naturally does duck his head and has that tight guard, but, he just was sort of stood there, wasn't really moving his head, and I don't know, I wonder if he's sort of fell in love with his power a bit too much and has kind of decided to ditch the defense, not ditch the defense per se, but decide, you know what, I'm going to walk these guys down high guard and land my power punches and eventually just sort of break these guys in there. And it's not a bad strategy because Canelo is a very good puncher and has the ability to do it, but I just think you'd find a guy who's going to make you pay for it. And, you don't, in boxing, you don't neglect one thing for another thing to me. You kind of, how do I explain? You split it evenly, Canelo learned a lot from that Floyd fight. He learned how to be slick defensively, and you see him operating with the shoulder roll. His head, his lateral upper body, his lateral movement is ridiculous for a guy who's relatively flat-footed. It's very, very good, but it's starting to slow. Reminds me a little bit of what did happen with Mike Tyson, where after he left Kevin Rooney, you kind of saw his head movement wasn't there, and he started getting hit more. Same thing's happening with Canelo, and I'd be curious to see his next few fights and see how he performs, because I do think he may slowly be coming out of his prime and slowly he's slowing down. I think his style isn't one that is going to get knocked out, but I just think that you may see a lot more Dimitri Bivol in the future of the type of fights where he's tired, he's trying to get a guy to trade with him on the ropes, he's beckoning him on, but you're not engaged. And I'd be curious to see where Canelo exit, how he performs against Bivol in a rematch. I don't really see what more he could do. He wants it back at light heavy. Bivol wants to at 168. Weird. You don't want to usually see a guy kill himself to make the weight below, but I guess Bivol's a different type of cat. But with Canelo, I understand though. He's kind of damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. If he does bring him down to the super middleweight, he's bringing him down. He couldn't beat him at his weight. And if he doesn't, then he's kind of just, again, almost being gifted another shot at the belt. So it's a weird scenario. Bivol, I think, has struck money with Canelo because he's got the cash cow essentially with 2 fights with him. I think it's worked perfectly for him. I give him a lot of credit, Canelo, for taking the Bivol fight in the first place. It was a very risky challenge that he didn't have to take. And it's one thing about Canelo, he doesn't. I know people talked about him ducking Golovkin, and the Benavidez one is a bit weirder situation, but generally he fights very, very good opposition. Canelo, yes, he has some duds here and there, but no fighter's ever going to fight world-class fighters every single fight. You're going to have a few that are a little bit dodgy. So, yeah, just my verdict, though, on Canelo. I do think he's maybe slowly slowing down, and I think I'm just curious to see how he does his next few fights. But, yeah, just my thought on Canelo Ryder, and until next time.